question, Rupa Huq.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Lots to consider today, and I share the concerns that have already been raised about things like stop and search, about locking in. These things are just going too far, I feel. But I want to concentrate today on Lord's Amendment 5. The introduction of an offence of interference with access to or provision of abortion services is a perfectly sensible thing to do. And I think that the Lords, particularly the Conservative Baroness Sugg, have done a great job in tidying up what we called in the days of Clause 9 rather clunkily buffer zones into safe access zones. So I urge colleagues to support Lord's Amendment 5 unamended tonight. Were it not for the actions of anti-choicers, this would not be necessary at all. But something has to be done when 2,000 women every week nationwide find themselves, when seeking lawful medical treatment, impeded on their way to the clinic door by unwanted individuals. Now, they wouldn't call themselves protesters. They may just be silently holding a sign or lining the pavement with images or holding rosary beads. But when the slogans in these signs or when the pictures that are there of sort of ghoulish images of fetuses, when the whole intent of all this is to shame them, to guilt trip them, to stop them exercising their bodily rights. Do you know, I don't want to eat up time because there's a lot of people and I'm in the middle of a sentence, so no, I'm not going to give way right now.
I'd you at the end of the sentence.
Can you allow, if the honourable gentleman would allow me to, I know that he's jumping up and down thinking red light here, but if he'll allow me to develop my point, then I'm happy to debate with him. So the whole point of these actions, okay, they don't call themselves protesters, they're not those angry young radicals, but it is to deter, to dissuade, to knock these women off course who've made a very difficult decision, probably the most agonising decision of their lives. So we could call it obstruction. And I remember in Ealing, my home patch, I went and saw the evidence logs in 2018 of the Mary Stopes clinic that we have there. Not just women users of the clinic, but women practitioners, medical professionals, describing how, you know, they have to run a daily gauntlet every day just to get to work, just to have their completely legal procedure. So 5 years ago, our council became the first in the country to introduce a public spaces protection order buffer zone. And protest still occurs. I heard the catastrophising of the gentleman from Northampton. Protest still occurs every day. You should come to Ealing and see. It's just moved a set number of metres down the road, so it's not in the face of the clinic gate, so women can get in, have their procedure without people in their face, without any kind of influences. And within that, I include Sister Supporter. They're a pressure group in their pink high-vis jackets. Towards the end of 2018, they were accompanying women into the clinic because people felt afraid to go on their own. I mean, it's an upsetting enough experience as it is, without all these layers on top. Okay, I'll give way now. Yeah.
I think the member for giving way, and you know the issue of for or against abortion is really not what is debated here today. But I do want to know loud and clear from the member: if a person is engaged in silent prayer, does the member believe that that person should be arrested?
Well, I would say to the honourable gentleman, there is a time and a place for everything. And, you know, prayer, does it have to literally take place outside the gates of the clinic at the moment these women in their hour of need are seeking their treatment? Is it necessary to take place at that moment? I would say no, it isn't. It's the same with, we had this argument over the vaccination centres, didn't we? The anti-vax people that would try and deter people from getting in the door of those. Everyone should be able to seek lawful, it's been legal in this country since 1967, medical treatment without interference, and that's what I feel. It's a public highway issue as well. As I say, Sister Supporter, our local campaign group, they wish they didn't have to be there, and they don't now. But I mean, the problem is only 3 other local authorities have followed this PSPO route because they've got enough on their plate without the onerous process of doing these, without the threat of legal challenge. And I have to say, in Ealing, 3 times it's been upheld, High Court, Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. Because actually, the Prime Minister said so at that dispatch box the other week, and I had a question that week as well. He was challenged by someone who was raising a case from Birmingham. He said, yes, we do accept the freedom of thought, conscience, belief, but at the same time, there are freedoms of women to seek legal treatment unimpeded, uninterfered with as well, and we have to balance the two. I want to carry on actually for a minute. And you know, some of the tactics that these people do employ include live streaming, filming, uploading onto Facebook, when sometimes there's an ex-violent partner in the background as well. And, you know, I don't disagree with praying or informing. I think these people say that they're informing, but there's a time and a place for everything. So that informing should take place at the GP surgery down the line. And the member for Northampton was saying it makes the police a laughingstock. Our police in Ealing have welcomed this because it frees them up from patrolling 2 different groups outside a clinic to fight real crime, because there is real crime out there. Any person using medical services should be able to do so without navigating an obstacle course of people trying to impose their view of what is right into the process to dissuade and deter. You know, even in Iran, the reviled regime of Iran, they got rid of their morality police. Why do we allow them here? Yeah, I will.
Thank you very much. I thank the Honourable Member for giving me. She's making a very powerful point and a very good point. And on that very point, I've had a number of people writing to me about this bill with various different degrees. Would she agree with me that there's a huge contradiction between people saying we have a right to protest in buffer zones and yet denying the women the right, the freedom of choice for themselves? And that it's not actually at that point protesting, it's bullying and harassment, and that is the difference.
I completely agree with what the Honourable Member said, because again, these things are always subjective. Some might say, I'm just praying, I've just got some rosary beads here, but the effect it has on the woman who's seeking the treatment is that she's traumatised for life, and quite often this is a traumatic experience in the first place. Yes, I will.
Absolutely forgiven way. She's making an excellent speech, and does she share my frustration at the number of men who have stood up in this chamber and pontificated when they will never have to make this choice, and telling women what they should have to put up with when they are just seeking healthcare, to be harassed. And I've heard a number of men in this chamber shouting down women. Perhaps they could just pipe down and listen to our perspectives, because none of you will ever have to go through this.
I think it's quite important that what we don't do, yes, is personalise this, and I think that goes for everybody in the chamber. Dr. Rupa Huq.
I completely accept what the Honourable Woman has just said, and Madam Deputy Speaker, as a woman yourself, you would know sometimes, for all of us women in this chamber, we might be walking down a dark alley, we shudder because there's someone there. Do you know what I mean? That feeling is magnified X amount of times when they're having this very difficult and distressing procedure, and people designed to stop them having their termination are in their path. So I say those people can have their say, but just move them away from the clinic door. And it's not such an outlandish thing. It exists in France, Spain, Canada, Australia, some US states. In Ireland, they're legislating it on the moment. We're going to be out of step with the rest of the UK, considering that Northern Ireland's bringing in a bill. Scotland, there's a private member's bill that's about to become law this year. Yes?
The Honourable Lady, and I do apologise to my honourable friend who proposed the amendment. His Majesty the King was visiting my constituency today, so I arrived back late from that event. But I think it's just worth pointing out that both houses have now voted heavily in favour of the principle of buffer zones. And I think we have to understand the passions behind the amendment that's being proposed, but it is not really a relevant amendment that advances the argument. It's trying to set the argument back against what both houses have already decided.
The Honourable Gentleman makes, a Right Honourable Gentleman and Knight of the Realm, makes a completely uncontestable point. It was by a ratio of almost 3-1 last time when we had a vote on it here. In the other place, it was taken on voices because it was so overwhelming. So any wrecking amendment today, members should not fall for it. They should reject this. This isn't about the rights and wrongs of abortion. That question was settled in 1967. It's about the rights of women to go about their lawful daily business. It's not even a religious thing. The bishops in the other place, the Bishop of Manchester, did a barnstorming speech on the day. And we said, after the tragic killing of Sarah Everard, she was only walking home. Women should be allowed to use our pavements unimpeded. Sadly, you know, we saw the resentencing yesterday, it all came back. Sadly, we've seen Sabina Nessa and Zara Alina since. But if we stand by and do nothing and say this is all okay, it's obviously not when 10,000 women a year find themselves... So, yeah, safe access, who could argue with that? Support Lord's Amendment 5 unamended tonight. Thank you.